Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix, and I am back for another edition of the Friday FARcast. I am a little under the weather today, so if my voice sounds a little raspy, it has to do with the fact that I think my body is burning off some uh, excitotoxins or whatever from the last couple days. Whirlwind journey to Chicago. But I am a Virgo. I'm here. So today, momentarily, we'll be joined by Castaldo. If you're not familiar with Rock, he's been on the show a number of times. He's a really interesting character, has a background in a lot of different things, martial arts, Muay Thai boxing, songwriting, guitar player. He's really like super talented guy. And he's also very esoteric and is a real deep diver. And he comes from a very interesting background of Etruscan sort of shamanism and medicine. And so a very rich sort of pool to draw from. And he's been making some very interesting inroads into space and plasma. And hence the title of today's show, which is Plasma and the golden noose of the gods. And so we'll go there. We're going to find out what exactly is going on in the heavens and how it can impact us, right? Because that's really like the big part of this too, is the big, wide, overreaching cosmology is phenomenal, and since we're in Virgo season, how do we make it personal, right? And I think that's maybe one of the things Rock can talk about. Also, he brought up this story, very interesting story. He sent it to me in text. I mean, I think it's his grandfather who was like some sort of Sicilian mafia guy who was involved in a murder and some interesting, like, sign magic that was like being like flashed. Like gang signs are magic signs. Remember that. Gang signs are like sigils. They're used to identify whatever particular gang you're a part of, but they also have some very interesting effects. Ronnie James Dio, did this thing, right? So we're going to get into that a little bit as well. And enough of me talking about Raw. Let's just bring him on so we can talk together. There he is. Raw,
can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear you. I don't know why. I've got my mic on. Let's check your audio.
I can't hear anything.
Audio. Okay, we got my internal microphone, my PDX podcast mic. How's that? You are unmuted. You are muted, by the way.
There we go.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I was able to hear you.
Oh yeah, I couldn't hear you. I had to unplug the other mic. I had the Yeti mic in. I unplugged it.
All right. What's going on, brother?
Maybe I should have fixed messed with the settings to see if I could figure it out.
We're Hold here. On. We're good. We're live.
This mic is good. Should I use the Yeti mic?
No, you're loud and clear.
All right, cool. Man, it's good to see you, bro.
I know it's been a while, right?
Been a long time, man. I don't even know if we've talked since I had my daughter. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we've talked.
Yeah.
I think you might have even been on one of my shows.
Yeah. Maybe we have since I have. Yeah, it's been a long time though. I feel like it's been years, like years.
Does your wife still listen to me?
Yes, she does. She does. Magic Micah. You see her sometimes in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell her we said hi.
I will. She's probably pop in the chat room. Let me see if can I get it down here. Yeah. I got it here. She might pop in the chat room.
Cool. All right. Well, how's the baby girl?
Dude, Tana is amazing. Thank you for asking. She's so smart, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's really good. We homeschool her, so it's
that's great.
yeah, it's. Do you know she was born almost on like a couple hours after my mom? My mom was a New Year's baby,
Yeah,
and she was born January 2nd, and she came a
interesting.
month and a half early
Wow,
to come to
wow,
for my wife to go into labor on New Year's Day on my mom's birthday in a snowstorm.
wow.
Six weeks early. Yeah.
That's a lot of effort right
This
there.
light might be too bright here, but oh
No,
well.
you're good. You're good. You're good. So you reached out to me. By the way, I apologize for last week, and it was just shuffling a lot of the cards in the deck. But you're here, and you reached out to me prior to last week, and you're like, "Man, I have been diving in some deep waters and making some big breakthroughs around some observations with the heavens." And I think we just need to just jump right into it and maybe get people up to speed and give them a little dose of what you're talking about.
Am I able to share screen on here too, or?
Yeah, and then I
All right.
can you just hit it's a share file or share. It's down there. It says in the bottom, and then I'm the one that makes it go live. It says present,
Oh,
right?
okay. All right. So
Yeah,
when I want to do
yeah,
that, we could do that
yeah. You
here.
just go ahead and do that, and I'll fire it up, and you can talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, we could even talk about some current events maybe at the end real quick too that I mentioned. Yeah, but yeah, people, Robert, I guess people that have heard me on your show, they might understand my background as well. So and certain experiences that I had. I think people a lot of times when people have spiritual experiences or experiences in general, sometimes send them down to do certain research in life, right?
Hmm.
But a lot of times people are researching and studying, but not really knowing what they're looking for, right? And they're just looking through it. And how can you find a connection when you don't know what connection you're actually looking for,
Good point.
right? Yeah. So like for many years, because of certain experiences I had, and because of just who I was and certain uh, background that I had certain interests, and I was doing certain research, but I really didn't have a focus on it, what I was researching and studying. I was just getting into all these mysteries that and it's certain process people go through. They start researching, of course, like UFOs and sometimes cryptids and spiritual near death experiences and ancient writings and megalithic sites. And there's so many topics that you start to get into to start explain some of the mysteries that you've gone to. But until I really started to um, ground my energy and focus on what my real path was and what I really wanted answers for in life. Because you're not just because you're interested in things, you're not going to be getting answers of nature in the universe. Just
Yeah,
because
you got to ask the right question, right?
and no,
That's what
and
it's about.
yeah, you got to ask the right questions, and you got to go to frickin' war for it if you want to really know,
Yep.
right? And it's the
Yep.
same with being a master at anything. If you want to be a master blacksmith, a master soccer player, a master whatever, you got to go to battle. You got to push yourself beyond what the average person
It's
can
called it's
deal
called
with.
it's called obsession, is what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, you have to be obsessed, right?
Yes.
And you have
Yeah.
to have a drive in you. And I had that drive in certain things. I mean, that's what got me off the streets and got me off of going in the bad directions because I had drive. I got into combat sports for a long time. I got into different things that helped me. But I come from like a warrior and pretty gangster background. So people are pretty hardcore. And I had a lot of hardcore energy and trauma to deal with that I went through.
Right.
And the way I got it out was through music and through combat sports and through once I got done with doing the physical energy part of my aggression that I had, then I had to put my energy into some of my interests because after doing combat sports for a while, like I did wrestling and soccer growing up, and then I got into kickboxing and Muay Thai and all that. But after that was all over at around 30 years old, I had to fill that void.
Yep.
Right. And so I started researching all the mysteries and all the things that I've been interested into, but I really didn't have it in focus. And then when I started to realize that my path here is sort of the wounded healer, and to help souls move on as well, and to deal with the progression of souls, right? And because that's ultimately why we're here, is like to move on to a higher vibration.
All right, let me hit pause right there. Question I want to ask you. So, Howdy McCoskey was on my show a couple of years ago, and we talked about what happens after you die.
Okay.
And it was one of the more controversial shows that that I've done. And Howdy, based on where he is and a deep diver like yourself, right? He's come to this conclusion that when we pass from our bodies, we just get recycled, right? It's a big recycling game. And he uses Plato's cave as sort of an analogy for this. And a lot of Gnostics share the same point of view, right? That this is all a fallen world created by demiurges, and that reincarnation is a soul trap. Where are you on this topic?
Well, I'm not going to claim that I have answers of anything, first of all, right? I can tell you some of the experiences I've had, and most ancient sacred initiates had to do with death, right? You have the Orpheus mysteries, right? Where they were about the transmigration of souls. And that's some of the oldest cultures you have that had the Thracian warriors, right? They were these spiritual warriors that now inherit like the area of Bulgaria. But these were part of ultimately the Asura and Devas, right? The ancient Sanskrit, Aryan cultures that were worldwide. Some of them called them the Kabiri, and these different, well, I truly feel, Robert, that I can't tell you that we're in a fallen world for sure, but I feel like that we have, the way I look at how things work is that and it fits into your astrology as well. So that's a big question you're asking. All right. I could first go to some of my experiences afterwards if you want. But first, let me state this, that I feel like all stars and suns are not what we think, right? They could be what angels are in the Bible, right? An intelligence that we can't even fathom, right? And what we show, what they teach us in school is really not right about a star, a sun. A sun is not a hydrogen gas sphere. It's a plasma sphere, a plasma star, right? It's pulsating sounds of the light, if you want to say, right? And that light comes in the form of streams of plasma, right? Some of it come in storm form, some of it is light. And so all suns and stars are very similar to who we are, right? They create, they bring sustenance, they can destroy, we bring evolution, all that. We have all the same components in us as well as a star, right? So I truly believe that suns and stars are kind of like what the gods are, the demigods in all these ancient writings. And if you look from the Orpheus mysteries to all cultures, they have a mythology about a celestial ocean in Sanskrit, all of this, right? This is not a primitive way of speaking, right? We have all suns and stars have streams of plasma that is like water. It's celestial water. It's streams of plasma, right? 99.99% of the mass of the universe is plasma. When you see a nebula, it's millions of light years of plasma, right? It's stringing everything together, and it's sentient. And souls, I feel, travel along these streams along with information to create, sustain life, rebirth life, destroy life, evolve life. And souls travel on it. And right now we seem to be encased in some sort of physical matter, right? That is a container for that energy. And we are not, most of us, I don't think, or any of us right now are progressing out of Earth because we lost the coordinates of the afterlife. We lost
I think that's a great point.
And we lost how to find the streams of plasma where you can create what your soul is calling yourself to be. So I look at things like all energies, all creation starts amongst the suns and stars, right? It's like the brain of God, all of that. right? So when a specific sun in its solar system wants to channel energy, right? It's basically evolving us according to our own vibration, and I'll get to that in a minute.
I
So
agree with. I understand where you're coming from with that.
right, so
And
it's a
yes.
harmony of spheres. So
Mhm.
as certain suns receive vibrations from the life that it's supporting in its solar system, it pulls in incoming plasmas from other suns and stars, right?
Mhm.
Different characteristics and personalities amongst the celestial ocean for the characteristics that it needs, and it pulls this in, right? And then our sun sends out emanations to its life, its planets.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
absorb these emanations. It's literally connected to the spinal current of humanity.
Yep.
Literally.
And we have a reciprocal relationship with that sun and everything else in the opposite direction as well, right? Like I think that to me that's a really prime area. So when we see these things happening, or when you sense them happening, what really triggered those things to happen?
Yeah.
Was it the mind of God or was it us?
Yeah.
And where do the twain meet? Right. So this is great stuff, man.
So
I love it.
yeah, and it's interesting because like as energies form amongst the stars and suns and supernova explosions, everything that's happening out there, a sun will channel in these energies and then alter that energy by its own vibration,
Right.
right? And then send those emanations out. And then
Yeah.
we absorb those emanations and we alter it by our own vibration, our own thoughts, our own prayers, what our soul is calling ourselves to be. And
Right.
then the moon will absorb literally our biophotons coming out of us, right? Those
Right.
are thoughts, our prayers, what we're really calling ourselves to be. The moon will absorb that, and then it will reflect it back to the sun, and the sun will bring in energies according to what we are calling ourselves to be, and then put those emanations back down upon us.
Right.
And
Right.
so if we have a greedy vibration coming out of us, the sun's going to bring us those storms to evolve us accordingly.
Yeah. I totally agree. And you know what I love about this model is that
The harmony of spheres.
it's so complex and novel, right? There's so much potential for not just imagination, right? But just this, like, I can't even begin to articulate it, this dynamic relationship with this ever changing kind of, infinite body of light that we're connected to. Like, to me, that's very fascinating. And I'm you're probably not so much on the political tip, but and I know you are a little bit, but one of the things that I've been talking about a lot is this whole idea of the black pill. And people who get black pilled say everything is fake, right? Everything is fake. The two-party system is fake. Politics is fake. We live in a simulation. The earth is, I mean, it's the most, and I know I'm being a bit like a hammer on a nail, but it's the most reductionist kind of dead end existential theory that I can think of.
Space is fake. The Earth is fake. Everything's
Right.
fake.
And so when you go down this path, to me, this is like, okay, here we go. Now we're having a conversation about something fucking interesting, right? Like something that can connect us, expand us, and really reinforce our deep spiritual potential. So keep going, brother. I'm loving
Yeah,
this.
we lost the language of the gods, and I think Sanskrit was called this before reason. I mean, Sanskrit was developed as they worded in the Vedas, and I hope the creamies are watching. They're gonna love this show.
I'm not sure that they're tuned in all that much these days, but
Yeah, but I hope they're doing all right, because
they're doing great. They're doing great.
And this is what the Vedas were, Robert. They were mantras and song to align you with the primal sounds of the universe, right? And they talk at Sanskrit as the language of the gods, that it was developed off of Shiva's cosmic drum, right? And the Om sound is Shiva. And if you look at the sun, that is Shiva's cosmic drum. It looks like the face of a drum. And that Om is the primal sound of the heartbeat of the universe, of the suns and stars, right? And it's the language of the god. So literally these Sanskrit mantras are hymns to stars and suns and hymns to align yourself with the primal sounds of the universe, and to align yourself with the dawn, with the noon sun, with the sunset, with the different times of the day, and how that aligns with the different energies of the stars, right? And it was developed for us to be in tune with nature and our surroundings and evolve with the universe. Instead, we've used a replication of working with that technology, instead of using certain like megalithic sites, so we can certain energy spots, so we can do mantras and different things to be in harmony with the stars. We're building machines to replicate that, right? So instead of being in tune with the universe, we want to sit back and enjoy ourselves and let machines do the work for us. Like instead of being telepathic and being connected to humanity, we're instant messaging everybody and
yeah, I've talked about that. I said, what would be so bad if we got rid of our cell phones? It would force us to evolve and develop our telepathic abilities, right? And because you're right, I mean, technology has been this kind of post-Atlantean apparatus that we've adopted and adapted to in some ways, faintly approximate some of these other things that we can innately do.
Yeah.
Right. And we've atrophied as a result of it.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. It's incredible. And I'm guilty of using the phones just like everybody else.
Well, it's part of it's part of our time and technology. And there are interesting things that we can, learn from them. Right. But at the same time, it is just an approximation, right? It's a simulacra of the thing that we can naturally connect into. Like I when I talk about this, I talk about, like the Aboriginal culture in Australia, and they talk about the dream time. The dream time is their internet.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's how they connect with each other. That's how they communicate.
Yeah. And this life is the Maya. That the real is the dream.
Right. So it's not as if there aren't examples of cultures that can do this. They exist, right? Yeah,
for sure. And most of all, what people don't realize too is most of pretty much every culture that we have that's important, that we have religious and sacred writings and sacred petroglyphs all over the world, from the Native Americans to Japanese, Chinese, the Assyrians, the Phoenicians, the Mitanni, the Egyptians, wherever you go, it connects back to Sanskrit. It connects back to Aryan and Vedic. And people don't realize that was the language of the gods. So it's all derived from that. Even when you see Osiris, that comes from Asar, which is Asura, right? That's his real name is Asar. Osiris was Greek. And these is the Assyrians. All of these come from the Asura and the Deva clans, right? The Devas are like the shining ones, the bright ones. The Asuras are the almighty lords, the warriors. So we had these two sides. So so people that don't have a background in mythology and also plasma physics, I'll try to make this as simple possible, the simple stuff I talk about today. So in ancient Vedic, Aryan, and when I think of Aryan, please don't think of Hitler in Vedic. I mean, related to that, because Hitler just took certain Aryan ideologies and twisted them and made his own thing. So it has really nothing to do with ancient Sanskrit and Aryan. So we had the Asura and Deva clans, which nowadays a lot of people like to use Nephilim words and things like that, but that's Hebrew. That's a Hebrew, right? That Nephilim goes back to actually ancient tribes of the Asura and the Deva, right? So the Asura and Devas were basically the Kshatriyas and the Brahmins. The Kshatriyas are the warriors, the Asuras, and the Devas are the Brahmins, the priests. Now, these Brahmins and Kshatriyas, these warriors and priests, they weren't just warriors and priests. They were adepts and spiritual initiates. They were warriors and they were shaman. They were doctors and they were warriors, right? They were astrologers and astronomers. They were scientists and priests,
right?
All in one,
right?
And that's what an adept is. So we've lost that today. Now we keep science and spirituality over here, science over there. Back then, to be an adept and an initiate, which all these writings were meant for, to understand, and they weren't meant for the average man to understand. They weren't even meant for them to see. They were meant for spiritual initiates and adepts, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
the adepts didn't just have one thing they were into. They were Renaissance men and masters at it all. The seven sciences, right?
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Chiron, right? Chiron,
I am the wounded healer.
the being, Chiron was a centaur who was rejected by his mother, right? And a son of Uranus, right? And he, not Uranus, I'm sorry, Kronos, and he winds up being exactly what you're talking about. He becomes this Renaissance character, astrology, music,
That's how I
poetry,
describe myself. I'm glad you said
the
that.
the arts of war, right? He gets the download from Apollo and Demeter, and then he teaches all of the heroes in the Iliad and the Odyssey. He's a key
Yeah.
figure for all of them. So what you're talking about from the from the Vedic side is really the personification in one being, Chiron.
Yeah, well, Zeus is Indra. You know, they're
Yeah,
they're 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 connected, right? And they're it all comes from that. When the Greek comes from, it stems from ancient Vedic Asura Deva tribes,
yeah,
right? When you get Deva, it really turns to Zeus, right?
right.
That's where it comes right from that, right? And it's really incredible. So yeah, I mean, these Asura and Deva tribes at one time were in harmony with nature and the universe on this planet. The oldest of the Vedas is, of course, the Rig Veda. And at one time in the Rig Veda, they were united. The Asura and Devas both meant divine, and they were in harmony. But eventually, these tribes went to war over the knowledge they were harnessing from the sun, and they were
Mhm.
using it to act as gods.
Right.
And they went to war over this. So these tribes split up. There was no Aryan invasion, it was an Aryan division. They divided,
Mm.
and they spread out all over the planet. This is why you have the Mitanni, who at one time spoken almost pure Sanskrit, right?
Mhm.
Those cultures that have arrived, the Mitanni, the Assyrians, the Asuras, that comes right from that, right? And
Mhm.
when you see the Persians and all of this, they're speaking a sound shift of Vedic, like Ahura Mazda is
Yeah.
Asura, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
sound shifts because
Yeah.
these Aryan cultures spread out, mixed with the local area, and took on their mythologies as well,
Right.
and then invented a new emerging language, right?
Yep.
So that's what happened with the Assyrians, the Persians, all these, the Sumer. It all stems from Asura Deva tribes,
Mhm.
right? And this
Yeah.
was, they were harnessing the streams of plasma coming from suns and stars, and they
Mhm.
understood at the moment of death was very important, and driving the soul to certain coordinates so they can navigate through the magnetosphere, right? So in these ancient writings, even certain golden scrolls that were kept around people's necks that they found, right? There's
Right.
one called the Golden Plate of Petalia,
Mhm. Yep.
right? It was found in southern Italy, but it was a Greek colony at the time. And
Yep.
Petalia, what does Petalia come from? It comes from Vedic Patala, the knowledge of the underworld,
Mm. Mhm.
right? It's all
Yep.
so there were certain scrolls that gave certain coordinates, the same coordinates that's in the Book of the Dead, the Book of Caverns, the Book of Two Ways, that's in all the ancient writings that have to do with the pyramid texts and Pharaoh Unas, right? His travels. They're giving certain coordinates to go literally towards the North Pole, Robert, where
Mm.
there's holes in the magnetosphere,
Right.
right?
Right.
and
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
and to navigate through the waters, the celestial waters, and to
Mm.
find a certain region where they can call them, souls can replenish themselves and literally call what their soul wants to be, so they can become a star, evolve
Right.
into a star, and merge with a star,
Wow.
right? You
Okay.
literally
So
mist the
are we
mist of your soul.
are
You
we
know?
talking about like Polaris, right? Polaris be the North Star, right? The pole
Well, they
star.
have also the celestial ship of the north that was very important, the Great Bear, Ursa
Mhm.
Major, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
this is the celestial ship of the north,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
this was the seven rays that aligned with Sirius and with the Pleiades, and they're one big cosmic being. There's a great book called The Celestial Ship in the North that came out in the early 1900s. Um, I have it here somewhere. Um, Valencia Straighton wrote it, and also there's also books by Ernest Wood, The Seven Rays, where you could get into some of the seven rays. I mean, there's incredible knowledge that has to do with channeling these streams of light. We are all absorbing light on angles, right? We absorb them on angles. And this is very important. We're our walking antennas, and we're absorbing what our soul is calling out to be, right? All of nature and the universe is speaking to us, the flight of the birds, and all of us are receiving those messages. Some of us are just blind to it, right? And we're not paying attention to it. But every one of us will receive a different message from nature if we go out there and start to become one with it. Right? And we'll actually think that bird, you know, sometimes certain birds will arrive and certain thoughts will appear at your head at the same time, like woodpeckers and things like this, because they're broadcasting the sound of the sun, right? And why do I say this? I could prove this, right? So the sun sends out light, plasma, in form of electrons and photons. It's music, right? As the sun enters in, yeah, there you go. There's that's a copy of it, a reprint. Yeah, that's a reprint. I have the reprint version, and I have the original version, which is
this is a legacy reprint, which is still pretty pricey, $49. But
yeah,
hey,
it's 2 books in one, because there's actually 2 volumes in the original, so that probably has both volumes.
So but, you can find this on Amazon and other dealers. But I just want to give people a visual of that.
Yeah, that one is that one you're showing here is the reprint. This one. Yeah. They have the other one. That one I can mark up. But yeah, that's a very good book if you want to get it. And then it even talks about the Kabiri, which the Kabiri are basically like the Nephilim races, the Asura Deva tribes, and how it's connected to the 7 rays, you know, and the 7 rays basically are connected to the 7 chakras.
Right.
And all of that, you know, but it goes beyond just the 7 rays. I think that's just one aspect of it. And you know, Alice Bailey talked about the 7 rays. She was really into that solar logos and the knowledge of the 7 rays, and it comes from theosophy.
Yeah, I had my first spiritual quote unquote teacher was this older guy, and he was connected to the University of the 12 Rays. And so there was this whole new body of material that was coming through. This was, I think, in the early 80s. And fascinating, really fascinating stuff. You know, I was still pretty young at that time and, you know, trying to wrap my head around these things. But it was like, oh, we found 5 more rays above those 7, which of course becomes 12. And then, you know, and then you get into the 12 disciples and the 12 signs and the 12 houses and all that stuff. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. And I think not long after that, they started to have this correspondence that there were at least 13 dimensions, right? So maybe we're up to 13 rays now. I don't know, but it was an interesting leap forward with the whole ray thing.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. I think that we're adding rays on, and it's well, we go through cycles just like the sun, and Vedics were mapping this out. What is 1 day of Brahma, like 4 billion years or something like that, or it's something like that. If you look it up,
it's a long day.
Yeah, that's 1 day of Brahma is like that, because they were measuring it in light years, the same way plasma is measured, right? 1 day of Brahma was like over 4 billion years old, or something like, and 1 night of Brahma is the same length.
Yeah,
you know, and they were measuring out, you know, cosmic measurements like this. Hello, everybody in the chat room. Angel Lori, shout out to Angel Lori. I see her in the chat room there. Shout out to Angel Lori. Yeah, she's a good person, Angel. She's been following my work and get some of my products as well. Yeah, I've been making my own copper tensor.
There you go.
Well.
There you go.
Yeah, first me and Masaki were using someone else to make the tensors from India. And then over the last 5-6 years, I learned how to make them myself, and I've been making my own style with the gemstones and crystals.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Hey, so I have a question for you. Where does your exploration discovery with this plasmic universe fall into with this idea of the electric universe? Like, are they?
Yeah. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Are they similar models? Are they close? Like, what's your take on that?
Well, see, the thing is, I don't really have a model. You know, unfortunately, like, people start making their research become dogmatic and a religion of its own. right? So like the
Yeah.
electric universe people, what are they called? The thunderbolts of the gods. They become
Yeah.
their own religion.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
it's not how it's supposed to be. You know, I do think it's more like a sentient plasma universe, you know, and it's like it's all made up of this sentient soup, right? That's the Akashic records, right?
Right.
All
Yeah.
these, it's a and it seems that even structures form within the plasma to accelerate light, different sacred structures, and they've been showing this in mythology and in terminology. See, in mythology, they sort of adapted ancient knowledge about the cosmos and put human stories to it and human names to it for people to remember it and pass it around and things. But they took on like that aspect, but this was advanced knowledge
Yeah.
of nature and the universe.
Yeah.
Right, when you see
Yeah.
Apollo with his dolphin messengers, Apollo is the sun, and he's holding these dolphins on these leashes, right? These are the magnetic field lines coming from the sun, right? And literally the dolphins dive through the plasma waters like the electricity moves through the plasma, like the information moves through the plasma, and they're messengers.
Right. Right.
Right? They're messengers. He's holding them on these magnetic field line leashes, the dolphins of Apollo. It's the same with the Naga. Right? The Naga lives in the cosmic ocean. They're the electricity, the information coming from the sun, right? They're traveling. And when they form as these hooded cobras, that's this. They're the golden loops of the gods, the golden hood, the golden noose of the gods. And I was shown this at a red granite megalithic site when I was meditating about souls, about where my place is and what happens when we die and all of this. I literally showed a noose coming from the sun, right? And it grabbed me at the site, grabbed me. And then I knew at that moment, that's the Ankh. That's what you see here. Robert, I've had these in my room for over 30 years. I've meditated about it. I've talked about it and been wrong for many times until a few years back when this happened to me. Right on winter solstice, at a solar alignment, at a red granite megalithic dolmen during the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. Remember that?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So look at this. These of Akhenaten. Akhenaten is literally the arm of the sun. Is where the sunspots, where they come from, is handing down a coronal loop, an Ankh. Right? The loop of the sun. That's exactly plasma physics. These rings, these loops, these are Ankhs. Right. You see the solar deity carrying it, right? The deity represents the sun.
Right.
Yeah. And this comes from Vedic. So let me show you. Let me share screen here. All right. Can I share?
Yeah.
Entire screen.
So it should be like present and go and try to find your thing, and then I'll fire it up.
Let me know if this works.
Okay.
All right. You guys can see? All right. Let me get.
No. So go into present.
I did.
Yeah. And so what are you going to share? Are you going to share like a file?
Pictures of my that I have in my email that I sent to myself.
So I think you have to like open them up. And yeah. The other thing you can do, which is what I do, is I will put something on the header as a tab, and you can click on that tab. So if you wanted to take your photo and just put it up on one of your tabs, and then you do share a screen, and you can click on that tab, and that photo will pop.
All right, so I have photos right here. So now I gotta
just pull it out of your folder, and then if like at the top where you have all your tabs open, there should be like a plus next to it, right? You just put the photo in that open tab space, and it'll pop in there. You go share a screen, right? And then you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to grab it.
All right. Oh, this ain't gonna fucking work. I can't figure it out.
Okay, do me a favor. So here,
because I'm hitting share entire screen. Share.
Yeah. So hold on. So here on comments, right? Comments. We got a private chat. I just opened up a private chat on the side, and send me. You could just see this. Hold on. Send it here, and then I can pull the stuff out.
Send the photos there.
Yeah, hold on.
Man, I could have pulled
Okay, so I just sent you a link in that private chat. You can see right there. See that?
It says 404 when I clicked on it.
Where'd you go? We lost him. We were getting the secrets of the universe, and he popped through, I think, a plasma portal hole. Man, let's see if we can dial him back in with the magic black box, the cube. Let's do this. Here we go. All right. So, anyway, as we wait for Ra to beam back in, did everybody see the latest version of Serious Sports last night? I thought it went quite well. I thought Osiris was great addition to the show. He's got obviously football knowledge. He's got astrological knowledge, and he's like really bright and funny and intense. So I'd be great this year as we go through the trials and travails of the NFL and maybe college football. And then Monday night, our guy Ferris from Astrodads will join us. And Ferris is, he's a bright guy with an athletic background, and he'll fit right in. So let's bring Rob back. I sent you a text with my email address. Did you get that? And we got to get him unmuted. You got to get you unmuted.
Do you want me to text them to you?
No, I just sent you my email address in the text. You can just send them there, and I'll open my email address and I'll pull them. Yeah.
All right.
I think that'll work. Yeah. So, yeah. We had the new show last night, and you can go check it out. And we got some predictions for the upcoming games this weekend with a bit of an astrological slant. Did you send those out?
The pictures, I'm sending them right now.
Okay, so I'm going to go in there and we'll go grab them, and we'll take this thing to the next level.
With this, all right.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm gonna just send you these few for now because I had a whole bunch on here, but I'll just send you a couple of them just so we can show you where it comes from Vedic first.
Okay. Here we go. Has not come through yet.
I just sent it, so it should. Oh, did I send? Oh, I spelt it wrong. You son of a bitch.
You got to hook up with the right plasma for that. Before we end this show today, we need to have a conversation about developing a personal relationship with this stuff. Right? Yeah. Like, I think if we're going to go beyond mere concept and theory, and there's nothing wrong with that we need to be able to embody these things. So at some point, I want to tap your brain around that and see what that looks like. And I know you opened up during a specific day and time. I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for when you did it, but that's how you did it. And maybe there's some practical techniques that people can start riding these plasma waves with. I think Ra's deep in the send. Where'd he go? He went away. He keeps beaming in and out of our 3D consciousness. I guess that's what happens when you stumble into this territory. Your relationship with terrestrial reality is very fluid. Hold on.
Thank you.
Let me do this.
Did you get the emails?
Yes. There we go.
Nice. Those are just a few for now to show you that the Ankh actually comes from Vedic too. And this is the coronal mass ejection loop that you see back here, which is they come from sunspots. They come from twisting magnetic field lines that form these loops, right? And even when you see like Viracocha standing before the gate of the sun, and he's holding these snakes that he's about to twist to open up the gate of the sun, right?
Right.
I mean, that's twisting magnetic field lines that form these Ankhs, these loops, the golden noose of the gods. And in Vedic, they called this the Pasha. And in Hindu, they call this the Pasha. Varuna, who's the god of the solar ocean, literally, the god of the solar ocean wields this. And you'll see Varuna and Ganesha. So this is the Ankh, the golden noose of the gods, or the golden ring of Zoroaster even. And then you'll see the next. Go to the next.
You know what else I'm seeing here? I'm seeing the golden arches of McDonald's.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it goes even to the fairies who they go hand in hand, twisting around each other as they dance around the golden ring.
Right.
All of this, the Lord of the Rings, it all comes from solar knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. Did I send you a whole bunch of pictures or just that one?
No, you got more. That was the first one I put up. Let's do what else we have here. Here's another one. This is a cool one right here. Let me do this. I'm gonna actually edit this just a little bit, not content wise, but just perspective wise, and I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. So let's do this. Let's go. Here we go. All right. So here I actually flipped this one because it was a little sideways and made it slightly bigger, but it's another example of what you're talking about right here.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the Ankh. I mean, it's held by all solar deities. I even think this is what they're holding when the Sumerians are holding those baskets. Look at the handle of the baskets. It's the loop. And right at the corners, they have these twisting things, and it's holding the water basket. It's carrying the waters of the sun. Right. And
I'm really interested in what's in the center. That's what I'm interested in. Right. Like, what is going on in here? Like, is this a portal? Yeah. Right. Is this something that just opens up like during this brief amount of time? Right. Like when I'm sure you know this story, right? Like there was this idea that the sun is this multidimensional gateway portal, right? And then these souls would literally come through the sun, and then the moon is this way station, right? And the moon would then catch these souls coming in and then direct them down to the earth. And part of this comes through the Egyptian cosmology, where they would have Pharaoh who would be inside of the pyramid, and the top of the pyramid would be exposed, right? It wouldn't be like a triangle. And the whole idea was that soul coming through the sun and then being reflected by the moon would come in and reanimate Pharaoh. Like, have you heard of this theory?
Yeah, the soul catcher myth. Yep,
right. So when I look at this, I'm like, okay, well, we got a whole big plasma god up here, right? But is this like one of those eruptive moments where all of a sudden, there's something coming through that eye of the needle or something like that, right? I think that's an interesting area. How often
of my life, Robert, like figuring, this stuff coming to me.
Yeah, no, I could see why, like, all these pieces begin to fit together.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. And even this idea of like the loop, right? Like when you think of the sun and the moon and the earth, right? It's got this kind of loop activity, and yeah, interesting stuff. All right, let's see what else you got here.
Yeah, so this is the next one you're probably going to show is maybe Varuna on his crocodile.
Oh yeah.
That's where you might have to zoom in a little bit to enlarge it.
Yeah, I'll probably have to enlarge it.
So Varuna is the god of the solar ocean. He's literally the god of the solar ocean, and he's depicted on a crocodile sometimes. And what's a crocodile? A crocodile travels through the swampy waters, right? Earth is a swampy dimension as well. So, but the swampy plasma waters, right? He's the croc rules the swamp. So if you zoom in closer, you'll see. Now, when you see a Vedic deity with numerous arms, the Vedic deity represents specific suns and stars, and the arms are the swirling vortex of the sun, right? The many rays of light, the many arms of the sun. And in each arm, usually they're holding a different attribute or technology or weapon that the sun wields, right? So various Vedic deities like this one, if you zoom in closer, you'll see right in his hand right here. Can you guys see that? Me zooming in, or is that
no, I'm going to zoom in. Yeah.
All right. So when you right in his hand, you'll see he has a loop, a noose, right? It's a noose that he's holding. It's a loop that with twisted strings at the bottom, strings that are twisting to form a loop. And they call this the Varuna Pasha, right? And it's described as a noose that comes from the solar deity and lassos souls and pulls them into the celestial waters, right? Ganesha also uses this noose to remove the evil on earth, right? And when you see the Naga are the solar emissions, and the Garudas are the magnetospheres that shield the planet.
Interesting.
And you have various Garudas. They're a race of plasma beings as well. They're a race of magnetospheres that are shaped by the solar wind. Some of them are even shaped by within the planet, like the Jupiter Jovian magnetosphere. The Jovian magnetosphere of Jupiter is formed by the rotation of Jupiter, by its spin, right? And the plasma that it gets within its magnetosphere comes from the volcanic moon of Io. It forms the plasma torus bubble, right? The plasma torus ring around Jupiter, right? And Jupiter is another thing that has to do with souls. Then on September 12th, there was a bridge of the magnetosphere of Jupiter and the magnetosphere of Earth, right? Very powerful, right? So right here, I don't know if you guys can see it clear. It might be blurry, but Ganesha right here, he's holding the golden noose in one of his hands, right? It's the Pasha, right? And he's the red elephant or big wise solar deity, right? Wisdom, right? He's wisdom of the universe, and he's wielding the golden noose of the gods.
Right. And what's that dude below him? He's got a little umbrella for Ganesha.
Yeah, I mean, he's like got like some sort of squeegee or fan or something.
I think it's an umbrella to keep an
umbrella to keep from the sunlight, right? To shade him from the sun, right? And then you have a hippopotamus who rules the waters, right? He's a god of the waters. He's traveling on the celestial god of the waters, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if this is almost like an eclipse in some ways.
Yeah, it could be.
With the umbrella on top of it, or maybe
it has the coronal mass ejection loops in his hand, you know.
Yeah, or maybe a cigar is just a cigar. Well, that's cool. Like he's writing. What is that? An ox? Is that what he's writing?
It's either an ox or a hippopotamus. Yeah, it might be something that travels through the water.
Looks like it looks like it's maybe an oxen or something like that.
Yeah, and then they have the what's it called, the Vajra. That thunderbolt thing.
Yeah.
Right, and that has to do with the coronal solar storm as well. The thunderbolt of that thunderbolt has to do with storms coming from the sun, coronal loops. Even the thunderbolts of the gods have never said the Ankh is the coronal mass ejection or the Pasha. That comes straight from Ra Castaldo here, everybody, right here on Robert Phoenix Friday FARcast.
There we go. Let's dial up another one of these. I think this is a classic one that I think a lot of people have probably seen through their peregrinations of symbolism and ancient culture right there.
I'm gonna send you something.
Here we
Oh
go.
yeah, see, yeah, this is from Persia, because I was talking about certain, and you see that they have right here at the bottom, you have the ring in the middle, and he's even holding the ring, and he's a solar deity, right? Zoroaster is a solar deity. These are solar dynasties, everybody. So these are solar kings, right? The shepherd kings that hold the crooked staff. Right, this is related as well, right? They're retrieving their goats. Goats travel from rock to rock in the waters, just like the plasma and the electricity, right? They go from rock to rock, and they have to be retrieved by the loop of the shepherd king, of the solar king, right? All of this is related. And then you have Zoroaster here, and he's the golden ring, right? So when you see the sun with wings coming out of it, like here, and in many cultures they depict this is the power of the solar wind, my friends, right? This is depicting the power of the solar wind, and how the solar wind travels and brings information, and it carries the golden ring of the gods, right? This is the golden ring of Zoroaster that you see right behind me, right? That's what he's holding right there.
There you go. All right.
Maybe I can even send you the crab nebula. And so also I have been shown, you're gonna let me blow your mind real quick before we end. I'm gonna email you this real quick.
Okay.
Before we go, Mr. Phoenix with the 11 house. You got a big. The most I ever get in my chat room is like maybe 50 people when Gary Wayne is on.
We get Sunday nights. This thing is popping, man.
Yeah, bro, I love it.
Sunday nights we get 400 people in here.
That's amazing, man. You got a big following.
Well, they're good people too, and they've kind of formed and bonded and created their own little subculture in there.
I got to start coming to your live chats. I got to start coming. My wife loves your stuff, man. You rock, bro.
Well,
she watches you more than she watches me.
Well, Magic Mika, thank you for watching me a little bit there.
So did you get the email?
Let me see what we got here. There it is. All right. Let's see what do we have here. I'm just gonna go in order. All right. This is a cool let's see. Here we go. This is a cool one.
Yeah.
Right
so
here.
I'm showing you how like the universe is broadcasting sound. Also, when I said the birds broadcast sound.
Yeah.
So when you have the electrons coming from the sun in the form of plasma, some of it bounces off the magnetic shield, right? A lot of it's shielded away. But as the electrons come within the magnetosphere, they make what's called an electron-driven chorus, right?
Ooh,
it's a chorus it's in a chorus within the plasma waves, and they sound like specific birds, and like woodpeckers, the hoopoo bird, the cuckoo bird, different birds, right? And these birds are talked about within mythology, right? And they're also, if you go outside an hour before dawn, right when the sun is sending this information, because this frequency that the sun sends is very similar to what the birds do. It opens up the plant cell's stomata, and it happens an hour before dawn. And the stomata is what make plants flourish and grow. So an hour before dawn, the birds start receiving the music from the sun so they can open up and receive the light. Right. So it's time to do the warrior dance. It's time to receive the music of the sun and do the solar dance. So as the electrons come through the magnetosphere, they make these they make these calls. And an hour before dawn, Robert, birds come out and mimic those same calls. They're broadcasting the electron-driven chorus. They have magnetite with them. They sense what's going on in the magnetic field. They follow magnetic fields, birds.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
So they can sense like a knowing the music and the vibration that's within the magnetosphere around Earth. And they broadcast this as a music for the sun so the plants can grow and receive the light. Right?
Cool.
It's amazing. And there's certain megalithic sites that have mythologies like this. There's a place called Kalanish. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
what Kalanish is. The Kalanish is right here. It's the celestial ship of the north, right?
Hmm.
It's in
Yeah.
Scotland, and there's auroras that come at the time of the year over Kalanish. There's a hole in the magnetosphere there, right?
Hmm.
So there's a mythology that goes along with Kalanish. It says
Hmm.
on midsummer night, the Shining One walks up the avenue of stones, heralded by the sound of the cuckoo's call. Right? The Shining
Yeah.
One is the sunlight walking up the avenue of stones, heralded by the sound that it makes when it comes through the magnetosphere.
I like that.
Incredible.
I like that.
Incredible. So right here, what you see is what's called the Crab Nebula pulsar wave,
Hmm.
right? And it's showing a specific bell-like stupa-like structure. And
Hmm.
I've found that these structures even form sometimes with lens flares, right? They seem to form to accelerate and stream the light, and also souls, Robert. I really believe that souls are traveling along these streams as well, not
Hmm.
just information of light. So this is the Crab Nebula supernova explosion that formed a bell-like pulsar wave, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. The Vela constellation did this as well, and the Vela is only this happened in 1054 AD, and there's Chinese writings that mark this. There's various writings that mark this supernova explosion. Can you see it? It's a bell-like structure.
Well, do you know what I see here? Here's what I see in this thing. I see it's like a helmet, and like that's an eye, and that's a nose,
Oh
and
yeah, that is like a face
that's
in
an
it right there.
eye. And so you have a face here, right? And then over here you have like some kind of like really wild like technology on the side of this helmet. I mean, this to me, this is like a personification of maybe this is one of these gods you're talking about. I mean, you can literally
It's
see the
within it.
face. You
Yeah,
can see the face within this thing.
on the right. Yeah, but if you look at the whole structure, it's like a bell, a sideways bell.
Yeah, I get that. I can see that. Like it's
Yeah.
right there. It reminds
And
me of one of
that
those.
bell is what's streaming the light in the middle circle.
Right, right. The bell reminds me of the what do they call them? The Vimana, the Vimana.
Yeah, the Vimana or the Stupa, and the
Yeah,
Vimana is basically the thought form craft of the Asvins, the Mar and the Maruts. These are Vedic seers that are created by Rudra, who Rudra is the sound and roaring sound of the sun, the storm of the sun.
yeah. This is really interesting because you could definitely see the bell or the Vimana, but I'm telling you, man, there's a face in there.
Yeah, there is a face in there. I see it. I didn't see it until you pointed it out.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a trip. All right.
So
let's go to this one.
So there's another one that's exactly so. This is side by side with the Vela poster. On the right is the Vela pulsar. It's spelled Vela, and on the left is the Crab Nebula pulsar, the one that we saw. So you could see the bell-like structure in both, right? Almost like a spinning top.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing like another thing going on inside.
Oh my God! I see a huge alien face there with a mouth open, screaming.
You can. It's like a half alien face, right? But it's there.
Oh my God!
Do you see it? Do you see it?
Yes, and above it, I see a horned creature above it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude!
Okay, and check this out. Oh, you got to see this. This is like somebody. This is a person. This is like a being right here. You can almost see their torso.
Oh my God!
Right, like trying to ride this thing, or this is a trip, man. I love this shit. I love this shit.
Incredible.
Yeah. What do you? I mean, what's going on there? I mean, there's like, obviously,
I got chills right now.
There's like some like fucking cosmic drama going on in that thing,
and that's a supernova explosion, man, and pulsar waves. Like that's incredible. And you know how much energy is packed into a little photon?
This sounds crazy, but this reminds me of Jesus, actually. Like up here at the top.
Yeah. Wow, I see what you're saying. Almost like the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. That is totally crazy. I love shit like this. I like looking at images from space because you never know what you're going to find.
That's so true.
And all right, so if you were to categorize the blue and the red, right? Are we talking masculine, creative, uh, feminine, receptive? Like, can you make those kinds of analogies, or is this just too big for those kinds of analogies?
Oh, yeah, I don't know if I think also with the blue and the red, sometimes when the red is like moving away from us, that sound that color in the universe, and blue is when it's coming to closer to us, right? That
Interesting.
shift. So I actually think this is what the blue star Kachina prophecy is. So Robert, I was meditating on this one day and I was shown that it was a blazar, right? So what is a blazar? A blazar is similar to a quasar. It's a gamma ray burst explosion, right? But when
Yeah.
it's a blazar, it's pointed at its observer, like Earth would be right. It would be observer. So a blue star Kachina, um, a blazar is invisible until it starts heading towards you. And when it starts heading towards you, it removes its mask and turns blue.
Interesting.
It becomes a blue star. And the blue star Kachina talks about how the Kachina, which represents a star or a sun, will remove his mask in the plaza to the uninitiated children. And this will bring destruction on Earth. And if a blazar came our way, it would friggin' ruin Earth. And
Wow.
it would be a blue star, right? It would remove its mask. When you remove your mask, you go from being invisible to visible. And that's what
Right.
happens when a blazar goes from red shift to blue shift. Right?
Interesting.
The blue means you're able to see it because it's heading the fuck towards you.
Right. Right.
You
Interesting.
know? Yeah.
Right. Wow. Beware the blue star. Wow.
Incredible.
All right. So what do we got here? It's like another alien craft or something. What is this?
What's the
Hold on.
next?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right
so this
there.
is a stupa, right?
Yeah.
This I'm saying might be presenting the same structure that we see in the universe to channel the sound of the light, right? And you see these stupas are formed in those same bell-like structures.
And do you think that these, what are they, ropes or cords or lines, or are those the streams of plasma that are being emitted?
Or
Yeah.
magnetic field lines. It's just
Right.
all symbolism.
Right. That's interesting. There's also like a honeycomb effect to this.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I see them. I see it. They have it on it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's all stupas, like even like Angkor Wat,
Mhm.
all those places they have like the Buddha sitting in these stupas, and that's
Yeah.
that's made. Angkor Wat is in Indonesia, which is the most volcanic region on the planet. And volcanoes rise from the sound of the sun. The sun sends music here that opens up
Mhm.
cracks within the earth and
Yeah.
rises the volcanoes out of the sea, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
volcanoes spit out plasma.
Interesting. All right. We got one last one here. So it looks like it's a,
The same bell-like structure,
yeah, right. Yeah. There we go.
right? That they show right on the staffs. And this is I'm saying these structures it's my theory that these structures form within the sentient plasma to
Mhm.
accelerate the light, the quote unquote the sound of the light, I like to say. And that's my Space Water podcast. You dive into the sound of the light. That's what we talk about. Cambodia, Angkor Wat's in Cambodia. I was talking about Borobudur. Borobudur. So Borobudur in Indonesia is like a volcanic temple. I believe it's a sound temple to literally raise up new life out of the earth, right?
Interesting.
And even the island of Patmos, where John prophesies the book of Revelation,
Yeah.
right? So that island, there's a story within Greek mythology how that island rose out of the sea. You had to have the Selene, the moon goddess, had to make a deal with Apollo and the sun gods, and shine the enchanting light from the cosmos on the island that was deep beneath the sea to rise it up out of the sea. And a
Right.
volcanic island, which Patmos is, would have been at once down at the bottom of the sea. Right?
Interesting. Okay, so you've made, I think, a very good case for these things existing. How do we have a relationship with them? But what is a practical tool that we can use to get in touch with this spiritual celestial power?
Well, not only do I have certain copper devices that I use for this and crystals, but also just grounding and certain music, certain ways to get in touch and open up your spinal current, right? The spinal current of who we are. We have all this sludge caked all over us, literally, right? All of these bad thoughts and all these cords that come out of us that are connected to all these things. You could have one of these cords like coming out of your navel connected to a cousin that you have across the whole planet, and you got to sever these cords. We can even sever them symbolically with our arms, like swinging our arms and severing them, right? Severing these cords every morning, or just simple things like going in the shower and imagining as the water's washing over you and spiraling down the drain goes your pain, stuff like that, right? There's different ways to absorb the light as you're going out there, right? I like to do what's called sun yoga as well. So I would start off with dawn, because the noonday sun is for it's not for beginners, it's for experienced ones, right? Pot, it depends on the kind of person you are. I mean, smoking less pot or more, I mean, depends on the kind of person you are. I would say smoke less. But
listen, I think having a conscious awareness of this is a really good place to start, right?
Paying attention to nature and the flight of the birds, the movement of the birds, the sound of the nature, everything going around you, getting in tune with that is really important, and where you fit in it, and what's also very important for people is being humbled. And sometimes, unfortunately, you have to have your ego freaking smashed.
Well,
right? Right? Smash. Some people might need psychedelics to break through it, because you have all these years of programming on you, where sometimes a psychedelic will catapult you through it. But I don't recommend it. I haven't done a psychedelic since 2001.
Well, my case against psychedelics, not that I haven't done them, I've done plenty of psychedelics, but my case against them is that a lot of these people who were heavy psychonauts pre-COVID turned out to be the most pro-COVID people on the internet. And I'm like, all those mind-expanding drugs you took brought you to this point?
Wow.
Really? Maybe we need to rethink that.
So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I took them and I saw it.
They use it because they want to see things, and they don't want to have to do the spiritual work, right? They want to blast themselves through it, so they don't have to do the spiritual work to get themselves there, or they want to get high, or they want to get out of themselves.
Well, it feels like, I mean, when I was young, a lot of this was just part of what we call the counterculture.
Yeah.
And you did it because, number one, it got you out of like a pretty sedate and boring place, which the 70s at times were. But for me, I also did it because I wanted to see where I would go, and I wanted to see what kind of effects it would have on my consciousness. And whatever happened and became part of who I am. But I think regardless of whether or not I had done those psychedelics, I probably still would have said no to COVID, and because that's just who I was. So I think it's really interesting, because I think people are who they are, and the substances, and not in all cases, I think sometimes it can change people, but the substances don't seem to impact the light switch, if you know what I mean, right? So they actually did this study with people who had done psychedelics, and they had like a battery of tests before and after, and every single one of them showed up the same except for one area, and that area was in like this leisure and ambition area. And they showed a marked change in like taking more time out for themselves, not being a part of the rat race, right? Not being so attached to the material goals. But it didn't necessarily mean that they were going to reevaluate the political system or the health system associated with it. So it's not always a magic pill that'll wake you up. But this is interesting. What about fasting? What about cycles of like coming in on a new moon, right, with the sun and getting into a phase like that. What do you think of that? Like we're coming up on the equinox. Was it tomorrow? 22nd? Is that right? I think it is. Or Sunday the
Tomorrow,
22nd.
tomorrow or then the next day. Yeah, into
Yeah.
the next
So
day.
what about the equinox as an activation for these things?
Yeah, it's a powerful time right now. These next couple of weeks, especially with what's going on with the sun, it's accelerating with the storms, and the storms is sort of replenishing the earth with all
Yeah,
this.
there's some real stuff happening with the sun lately, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like super
incredible.
active.
Yeah, it's at its a maximum, and I think we're going to be coming in this peak in July of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be that we have a complete annihilation of electronics. It might lead to something like that.
Well, it feels like it would certainly level the playing field
Yeah.
if that happened, right? And then Anno Domini year zero. This has been really cool. Did you want to talk about the New York Times story that you sent me? Or do you want to draw? You want to say that for another time?
Yeah, maybe we could save it for another time. I sort of inherited a lot of the guilt from that. I'm the July 12th scapegoat, right? I was born on the 12th day, which is the hangman, of course, in tarot, right? But also, I was born with the noose around my neck.
Right.
I had the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, born still inside the caul, right?
No.
And still inside the amniotic sac. So it was a very, really crazy birth. And I've sort of been the scapegoat for a lot of things my whole life with my family as well. But I don't know if I want to get in too much into
Well, the
it.
12, it's interesting too, because the number 12 relates to the 12th sign of the zodiac, which is Pisces, which is the
That's my dad.
scapegoat.
Well,
Yeah,
too.
that's the
Yeah,
scapegoat.
and when I was born at 9:31 in the morning, July 12th, 1978, is when Chiron went into a minor transit with Taurus, and Taurus is also my wife's. She's a Taurus. My daughter is a Capricorn.
Your daughter's going to be running that house pretty soon.
Yeah, she already is.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, man, this has been great having you back on, and let's not wait so long. For the next
you got to
time.
come on my Space Water podcast if you can in a week, next week or whatever.
Yeah. I'm there. Just invite me, and I'm there.
You're invited, brother.
Okay, and I have a link inside the show notes for your website, but you want to just verbalize that for people?
Yeah, you guys basically could find me at the Mystical Spiral across the board. TheMysticalSpiral.com if you want free information. Which I have no ads, no nothing. I just pay for that out of pocket. There's no advertisements, no nothing on there, just straight information for free. And then if you want to support me, you could go to patreon.com/themysticalspiral. You could join for as low as $2 a month. I have my store where I make my copper energy devices, and I have the world's most finest ethically sourced gemstones and crystals. That's themysticalspiralstore.com. You can also get that from themysticalspiral.com. And then I'm on YouTube, Exploring the Ka on YouTube. And I also have a separate channel I just started, The Mystical Spiral. That's just for the copper and the gemstones. And if you're into combat sports, I also have MMA Shaman channel that I started.
Cool. All right, there we go. We got a big dose of raw today. So thanks for coming on.
You're doing very important work yourself, my friend. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, it's it keeps me out of jail, and it keeps me out of the insane asylum. So that's important to me. All right, listen, you take care, and we'll talk soon on your site. Love you back. Spiral out. There he is, the great Castaldo. Interesting stuff, right? Imagine being able to get in touch with the lasso of light coming from the plasma gods and lifting you up above this moribund existence and looking down from about 5 or 6 dimensional levels, and everything looks so small and trivial and quaint in some ways. Isn't that right, Peaches? Come on up here. You gotta say goodbye to the audience. Come on. Here we go. Let's go. Come on, do your thing. All right. Here she is. The lovely Peaches from the planet Peachy. Wishing you all a happy Friday. Hey, we'll be back on Sunday night for Sunday Night Astro Live, and I'm gonna continue to explore this Piscean theme, which we got into last Sunday night when I was talking. Well, actually, it was 2 weeks ago, and I started about. I really got into the 12th house, and I've just been spending a lot of time with Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees. So I'm gonna get into that on Sunday night, and of course we'll do some solstice stuff, and I'm sorry, the autumnal equinox, not the solstice, but the autumnal equinox. We'll get into that and more. In the meantime, have yourselves a great Friday. God bless. Take good care of each other, and use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open to what's possible. Oh, and don't forget our friend Chris over at truehempscience.com. 15MINS is your magic code to get all the free goodies with $100 or more. Chataria, you're the best. Mods, thank you. Bye for now.